Hello and welcome. My name is Froland Miranda, and in this module, we're going to build a very simple Java application. In this application, we are going to create a couple objects, and we're going to have them interact with each other. And we'll also create some tests to validate that our objects are behaving in the way that we expect. And along the way, we'll look at some pretty neat Java functionality as well. So let's go ahead, move over to Visual Studio Code and get started. All right, we see here in my code editor that I'm on the welcome screen. To begin creating a Java application, we need to hit Command-Shift-P. And here we come to a screen that gives us a lot of functionality that VS Code will do. But what we're interested in is creating the Java application. So to get to that, we want to start typing out Java, and create. As we can see, I have it here at the top of my list. So I hit enter. And in a few seconds, it's going to ask me a few other questions. Now it's asking, do I want to use build tools or do I want to use Maven? We're going to use Maven as our build tool. So we go ahead and click that. And then we see there's a bunch of Maven templates. The Maven template that we want to choose is Maven Archetype Quick Start. And then we want to use the most recent version, 1.4. Here I'm going to navigate to a folder that I want my document to exist in. Here I already have a dev folder that I want to use, and I'm going to select this as my destination folder. Now the terminal window opens up and we can see that Visual Studio Code is doing a few things. It's creating the project for us at this moment. And now it's going to ask us for some extra information that it needs. The first thing it's asking is for the group ID. The group ID just needs to be an ID that uniquely identifies the group or maybe the company that is building this application. So in this case, I'm going to use io.codedifferently. You can add whatever you want. The next thing, it says artifact ID. Artifact ID is essentially the name of this application, the name of the module that we're building. So I'm going to call this one First Objects Demo. I hit enter, and the next is going to ask us for the version. We can leave the default here, 1.0 snapshot. So we can just go ahead and enter through. And the last thing, it's asking about a package. What a package essentially is a folder structure within our project. And it wants to use, by default, the group ID that we created earlier. And this works well for me, so I'm just going to enter through. Finally, it shows all the properties we set, and then it asks us to confirm. So I like what I see, so I'm just going to type Y and enter. And finally, we see build success. So now that our project has been created, let's go ahead and open it up. So here on the left panel, at the very top, we have the Explorer tab. Click on that, and then we'll see an option to open a folder. So let's go ahead and click that. This has brought me straight to my dev directory. You might have to navigate around to find the directory that you're keeping your projects in. And then go ahead, select the project, click into it, and say open. Now that the project is open, we can see the folders and files that VS Code has created. The first one here is a folder called SRC, or source. The second is target, and finally we see a pom.xml. What's important right now is this source folder. The source folder is where we'll spend a lot of our time when we're developing. It's where all our source code will go. If we open this up, we'll see two other folders, main and test. Main is where our application code will go. And if we open that up, we'll see that Java's already created a folder structure for us based off of what we inputted earlier. So we see main.java, and then we see our package structure, io/code differently, and then VS Code has created an app.java file for us. If we close that and look at the next folder, the test folder, this is where we're going to keep all our test source code. Right? And we see that it mimics the package structure or folder structure that we saw above. io.codedifferently app.test. So when we're creating our projects, we will separate our application code from our testing code just to make things easier to read and easier to find. And we see here they've already done that. So we have app.java, which would be the application file in our main, and then we see apptest.java, which lives in the test folder. We're not going to use these classes right now. We're going to create our own, but it's good to see how this is being organized. The other two items here aren't items that we're going to directly encounter in this walkthrough, but it's good to know what they are. So this target folder is when Java compiles our code down to bytecode, it will take our .java files, and then from there it will create .class files. Those files will then be stored here. This is more for the compiler to run, and we won't spend much time in this walkthrough in this folder. And finally, we see the pom.xml file. This is a file that is used to manage packages or manage code that we've been importing into our project. Let's say that there's another company out there that has created some Java code and they've made it accessible to us to perform some task. And we need to perform that task in our application. We can import that code into our project so that we can use it directly. And the pom.xml file is what we can use to help with that. We'll see more about that later. For now,